Hello, wonderful pupils. You're welcome to School on Air. And this is the English lesson for Class 6. Now, today we're still going to be looking at the topic paragraphs. Paragraphs. But under this topic, we have a new subtopic that we'll be looking at. And it is called Guide to Good Essay Writing. Guide to Good Essay Writing. Guide to good essay writing. The topic is paragraph and the subtopic is guide to good essay writing. Now, by the end of today's lesson, you should be able to identify ideas that revolve around the use of appropriate expressions in an essay, and you should also be able to identify what writing a good essay requires. Now, in today's topic, we're going to be using a material, and it's a material or an essay on life in a town is better than life in a village. Life in a town is better than life in a village. And as the lesson goes on, we're going to be seeing different pictures showing life in a town as well as life in a village. Now we're going to be seeing the different facilities that we have in both a town and a village that makes them to be preferred. Now, the topic of an essay determines to greater extent the right choice of expressions to use. Now, when you're writing an essay, the topic of that essay will most times determine to a very large extent the kind of language that you will use in that essay. It also determines the choice of expressions that you use in that essay. Now, in the same manner, the topic expressions readily point out what you're writing about. Now, when you see the expressions in an essay, it will definitely show you, one, what you're writing about. It can tell you a lot about what that essay is all about. Then it can also tell you why you are writing about that topic. The expressions used can tell the reader why the writer wrote about that topic, and it can also show you what you want to achieve with that essay. Now, also, the topic of an essay can show you the message that is transferred between you, the writer, and the readers. Now, first of all, you know that when you're reading an essay, there's always a message that the writer is trying to pass across. So the expressions used in that essay can show you the kind of message that the writer is trying to transfer to the readers. Now, let us examine the appropriate use of language in an essay. What does it entail? How do you choose the appropriate expressions or language when you're writing an essay? Now, first of all, we have the situation. The situation is the circumstance that surrounds what you want to write about. And these are the features that determine the expression. We have situation. Now again, the situation is the circumstance that surrounds what you want to write about. Now we also have the purpose. We have the situation, one, and then secondly we have the purpose. Now, what exactly is the purpose of your essay? What you want your essay to achieve is the purpose. Whatever it is that you want your essay to achieve at the end of the day, after a reader has gone through the essay, that is the purpose of the essay. Now, are you telling or narrating an instance or an incident, or are you describing certain things or situations? Now, all these things point at the purpose of the essay. Whatever it is that you're trying to describe, if you're describing an incident or a situation or an event, all these can point at the purpose of the essay. We have purpose. Are you arguing out a case? That's another way to look at it. If you're arguing out a case, it can point towards the purpose of the essay. Now we can say in that case that the purpose of the essay is to be argumentative. If you're trying to argue out a case like for or against a motion, then the purpose of that essay, we can say, could be argumentative. You're trying to generate arguments. Now, another way to look at it is that, are you exposing your readers to certain processes, a novel circumstance or experience? All these can also point at the purpose. If you're trying to make people learn something new, or you're trying to make them aware of an experience that you had or situation, all these can generate the purpose of the essay. Now, another feature that determines the expression of an essay is the writer. Let me say the writer-reader relationship. The writer-reader relationship. And this relationship shows whether the writer and reader relate formally or informally. Again, another feature that determines the expression in an essay is the writer-reader relationship. Writer-reader relationship. Now, this just goes to show the kind of relationship that the writer has with the reader. It might be formal or informal. For example, let me take you back to formal and informal letter writing. Remember that when you're writing a formal letter, it is most times very straight to the point, and it is most times written with no use of inappropriate language or unnecessary greeting, because you're writing to somebody who is in a place or a post of authority. So that, we can say, can generate an informal approach to the writer-reader relationship, or a formal approach. And then when you're talking to like your mates or people that you are used to, that can generate an informal writer-reader relationship. So that is another feature that shows the kind of expressions that you use when you're writing an essay. Like I said, this slide is just trying to tell you that there is actually a formal and informal language or use of language in an essay. You have the formal or informal use of language when you're writing an essay. Now, we also have the simple or complete use of language when you're writing an essay. These also can be in relation to formal or informal use of language. Now, let's go straight to the essay that we're using as a case study for today's lesson. That is Guide to Good Essay Writing. Now, we have this essay. It's called, Is Life in a Town Better Than Life in a Village? Now, let's study it attentively. Life in a town is better than life in a village for some people, while others prefer life in the village. There are reasons why either life is preferred. That is, there are different reasons why somebody will prefer life in a village or life in a town. A farmer likes to live in a village where there is enough arable land to cultivate in order to support his family. Now, that's one reason why somebody will prefer life in a village. Now, we have a picture of people cultivating their crops in the farm. Life in a village is often safe, quiet, and peaceful. Most people know each other in a village, many of whom are friends. Now, you see that this person is just trying to show you or give you reasons why you should prefer life in the village. Peaceful environment, you have more friends. Here we have a picture of people, a close community in a village. Now let's go to life in a town. On the other hand, life in a city is usually noisy. Family members may not all live together. People tend to have fewer friends due to busyness and distance. Traffic is usually very hectic, and security of life and property may be jeopardized. Now, these are reasons why the writer is trying to convince you to prefer life in a village to life in a town. But not everything about the town is to a disadvantage. Let's see some advantages of living in a town. Now, some advantages of living in a town include access to standard healthcare services, you have stable power supply, telecom network services, portable water, you have infrastructure and industries in the town. Stable power supply, telecom network services, that's access to the internet and then to use your mobile phones and all that. Portable water, very good and clean drinking water for everybody. We have infrastructures and industries. Now, the life a person chooses depends on which has more value to him or her. Now, let's quickly review the guides to writing a good essay as used in the above example that we just saw. We saw how we used relevant and appropriate sentences and use of sentence structure. Notice how the sentences in that essay were properly structured. First, they talked about the life in a village, why you should prefer it, and then it now goes on to talk about life in a city and why you should prefer that life. We saw joining of sentences together to make them very coherent, that is easy to understand, and we saw the use of the right choice of words. Now, we did not go around using inappropriate words like greetings or insultive language. We just went straight to the point. Now, that's a formal way of writing an essay. Like we saw the formal and informal ways or use of expression in an essay. Now, in today's lesson, you have learned what determines the use of right expressions in an essay by studying a suitable passage. That was life in a village is better than life in a city. You have also identified the necessary guides to writing a good essay. Now, here are some activities for you to practice with. What determines appropriate language use in writing an essay? What determines appropriate language use in writing an essay? What necessary guides should you follow in writing a good essay? What necessary guides should you follow in writing a good essay? Now, that's the end of our lesson for today. I hope you've learned a lot from today's lesson. We looked at the guide to writing a good essay. Now, I know that you also can write a good essay.